Going out on a brown note. Good evening, speedsters. Welcome to episode 71 of the Laser Comb Podcast, the show where we comb through random episodes of classic television with a fine-tooth laser. I am, as always, the Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm your other host, NeoCal.
And this week on the Laser Comb Podcast, we're continuing on with our latest wave of Patreon picks. And apologies, it's been about a month or so since we recorded an episode of this show, but, well, we've been doing other things.
That's right.
And this week, this week's pick is from our patron, Daniel. Shout out to you. He wanted us to watch and review the 1990 to 1991 Flash TV show based on the comic book of the same name from DC Comics.
Yeah, the comic book was called 1990, the Flash TV show. Oddly enough, it's funny how that worked out into a TV show.
Yeah, it's funny how that worked out in like 1965.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair,
bold move naming the comic 1990s the Flash TV show.
To be fair, though, Marvel in the early 90s had the 2099 line, Spider-Man 2099. They weren't publishing that shit in 2099.
No.
They were publishing it in 1992.
Depending on how that cyberpunk tech works, doubtful, but maybe we'll still be alive to see if it comes around.
Well, if the cyberpunk tech doesn't work out in our favor to maintain our lives all the way until 2099, I'm just gonna get a katana and like a trench coat and grow a ponytail and just like start walking around beheading people, absorbing their power.
Specific people, not just random people.
Specific people.
People that choose to duel you.
Yes. Don't you wish? I don't know. Don't you wish you could still challenge people to duels?
You know, that was like a law. It was either somewhere in America or somewhere like some obscure place in like the UK. And it was like a law like all the way until like the 80s or 70s or like something. Like you could still technically like duel people.
That sounds great. And like win or lose, like there's no legal repercussions as long as you both have like
legally agree to a duel by like first blood or to death or something like that.
And there's no actual like physical contract. It's an implied agreement that is sealed with a glove with a slap to the side of the face,
which the challenged has to rebuke with.
Yeah. So
right.
And if the challenger slaps the challengee in the face with a glove, and the challengee then returns the favor with a glove of his own, then the contract has become ironclad.
Yeah. And you need a second. Like you need like a second in the duel.
Yeah,
to fight in your stead in case you can't, and an overseer.
yeah.
Yeah, a witness. There we go.
A moderator of sorts.
Moderator of sorts. I would get that license. Official duelist moderator. I could do that.
That'd be that. That's way cooler than like being like a licensed like wedding officiate.
Right. All right. I want a clean fight.
Contestant one ready. Contestant two ready. Shoots a
Yeah,
gun
and
in
it
the air.
depends on what it is too. Like somebody challenge Elon Musk to pistols at dawn, like old flintlock, like single fire flintlocks.
Well, as we discussed on the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show recently, that he has a seems to have an affinity for old flintlock pistols, and indeed uses them
Makes
to
them t-
intimidate people into casting him in a video game.
apparently.
What
Shout
a
out if you've seen Elon Musk in Cyberpunk 2077.
what a what a time to be alive. And you know what a when a good time to be alive was?
The
1990.
90s, specifically 1990.
So this show takes a lot of liberties with the origin of the Flash. Like for one, like his mom is alive. I did some research, and his mom is alive in this show. Now a pretty, and I
Ooh.
think this might be like a post Crisis on Infinite Earths thing. But a pretty big part of the Flash's backstory is that his mom is dead,
Mm-hmm.
and his father was wrongfully imprisoned for her murder, which ended up leading to the eventually the Flashpoint comic book story arc. Sorry, my left eye is super itchy right now. Ended up leading to the Flashpoint story arc in which the Flash attempts to go back in time to save his mother from dying and his father from going to prison, and ends up breaking reality as a result. The recent Flash movie loosely adapted that story, which I actually like that 2023 Flash movie.
Hmm.
It completely bombed at the box office, and I think it deserved to be seen by more people.
Mm.
But what are
Oh,
you going to
that's
do?
right. Yeah. The superhero movies are starting to, that gold mine is starting to run dry.
And well, thank the gods for that. I No, that 2010s era, not even just superhero movies, but that 2010s era of like $250 like $250 $250 million like transform
$250 Transformers movie is Siege and I using our figurines that we already have to stop motion
not even
our
stop
own movie.
motion. We're just like playing with the figures, like smashing them into each other. Uh
Yeah, stop motion, that would be like $1,000 budget.
Yeah, no, that era of in the 2010s of like $250 million like tentpole pictures like Transformers movies and like Marvel movies and like Fast and the Furious movies where they make like $1.5 billion for some reason, but then you like talk to people IRL and no one's seen it. I don't know. That was how it was with the Avatar movies too. Like those movies made like each made like $3 billion, but like I don't really know anyone, especially that second one. Know any
China.
I don't know anyone
China
who went to
money,
see it.
man.
But anyway, so that era of like blockbuster filmmaking is kind of seems to be like coming to an end.
What some of the budgets? Oh, sorry. When I have allergies, my eyes get watery and I start to yawn. Not
I
because I'm
think that's why
tired.
my eye is itchy too right now. I think it's allergies.
I There's only been like a couple other people I met that like yawning is like a one of their allergy symptoms. Almost like their lung, like they need to breathe more.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me
I
that
hate
way.
it. Yeah, because like when I have like allergies, my eyes will be running and I'll be like yawning and it's like, no, I'm not tired and bored. But
Um,
yeah, you were saying well, weren't some of those movies like weren't they like nearing like $1 billion if you included like marketing and shit? Like it was insane. Some of
Most
the
blockbuster films have a marketing budget of around 100 million. Most big like tentpole pictures like that.
that's insane.
But yeah, that era seems to be like coming to an end with all of these like big budget movies that are just crashing and burning.
And well, indeed, we're seeing like lower budget movies like doing like like Oppenheimer, Barbie, that are doing better. And
Yeah, I think.
lower budget, like they're still
Well, yeah,
like
but I think
multi-million dollar movies,
I
but not
I
like 250 million.
I think Oppenheimer only had a budget of like 70 million or something like that.
Yep, probably.
And the movie's made, it's like one of Nolan's like highest grossing films. And I love to see it. Like the movie, like it's a well crafted biopic, and that movie has made like almost $1 billion. Like these are the kind of movies that I want to see. Like people come out in droves for.
That
Barbie
was
didn't even
about
cost all that much either.
no 100 million about ish to make open Oppenheimer, and it made a yeah made almost a billion.
Yeah, that's great.
Damn.
When it comes out on 4K Blu-ray, I'm gonna buy it. I'm trying to get all of the
Hell
Nolan
yeah.
films, which I have. What ones do I own? I own Batman Begins on regular Blu-ray, Dark Knight on 4K Blu-ray, Inception on regular Blu-ray, um, Interstellar on regular Blu-ray, Dunkirk on 4K, and Tenet on 4K.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
oh, I think I have the Dark Knight Rises too on
Mm.
regular Blu-ray.
So Barbie was about 130 mil, and its worldwide is almost 1.5 billion. Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, I
Where are
know,
you getting
right?
all this money? International was 55%, 791 million.
Yeah. Well, in these movies too, like these are movies that like I can talk to people in my day-to-day life and be like, "Oh, have you seen Barbie? Have you seen Oppenheimer?" And it's like, "Yeah, yeah, I went to see it." Whereas like I don't know, a lot of these movies in like the 2010s that I was referring to, I'd be like, "Oh, have you seen blah blah? It's made like $2 billion at the box office," and everyone I would talk to would be like, "No."
Yeah, it's like, oh, have you seen like the the second like Thor movie? And I would be one of those people that's like, no, what? I remember what they're called.
Thor: The Dark World. That's actually yeah, I didn't see that in theaters either.
Nobody did, except it
Nobody
made all
did,
the money.
and nobody likes it. Anyway, so the Flash, as I mentioned, this iteration of the Flash does different things with with his origin, but like the basics of how he got his powers and who he is as a character are the same. He's still a like forensic investigator. He's still like struck by lightning and gets chemicals splashed on him at the same time, which
At the,
gives him the
see, that was
powers.
your problem, Siege, is you'd have superpowers by now if you had had the forethought, the foresight to splash chemical dangerous chemicals on you before you got struck by lightning.
Right. Then I would
Next
have
time.
superpowers.
Next
Yeah,
time.
yeah, next time. Next time I'm out in a lightning storm, I'll
Jump in a vat of chemicals.
I'll throw a bunch of bottles of like very like nebulously ill-defined
different
chemicals in front of me.
colored, different
Yeah,
colored liquids. Yeah.
yeah. That's how
Just
you.
different bottles of Gatorade. Ah!
That's how you know it's science right there because it's all
Because
sorts
they're
of
different colors
different colored liquids in beakers.
in
That's
beakers. And bonus points if you use dry ice to make them like smoke.
yeah. That's how you know you're doing a science.
Yeah. And you know somebody is a scientist if they have safety goggles and they're looking at the vials as they're preparing to pour one into the other.
So this show only lasted one season. I think, based on the limited research that I did, it ran from September of 1990 to May of 1991. It lasted one season of 22 episodes. The ratings for this show were actually incredible. Like the pilot episode had over 22 million viewers, and even the series finale had like almost 12 million viewers. Like those are really good numbers, but the show was still canceled, and I think it was because of budgetary for budgetary reasons. Apparently, each episode of the show cost like $1.6 million to make. So I think the show was probably just canceled because it was too expensive.
That's
And
pretty expensive, my dude.
that you see the budget in this show.
I mean,
Like the production values in this show are like they're as good as the 1989 Batman movie. And indeed, this show feels like it easily exist in that same world. And hell, even the theme song is done by Danny Elfman. And the music in the
yeah.
show is very like Danny Elfman, like Tim Burton Batman esque type music. And like it's got similar lighting, and like the streets of Central City are like kind of dark and like kind of smoky, just like Gotham City was in the 1989 Batman. Skitty, I want to see this Flash crossover with Michael Keaton's Batman more than Ezra Miller's Flash.
Okay. Okay. Let me think about. Sorry. Let me trying to picture that in my head. Yeah, I think they could work. It's got the same kind of noir, like this isn't quite goth noir, like gothic noir styled, like raining all like the time, but it's in this feels more Dick Tracy or like The Shadow,
Right.
like good hard police work kind of. I think that could work.
Well, and keep in mind too, like the aesthetic between like the first Tim Burton Batman movie and the second one are very different. Like he went leaned
What was the
full
second one?
Batman Returns. Like he leaned full into
Okay.
like goth and like BDSM fetishism, and like
Very
uh
dark
the
lighting.
architecture was very inspired by like old like German like neo-expressionist films. Whereas the first Batman movie feels more like has a look that's more akin to like an old crime movie.
It's bat yeah, the first one's very like feels Batman-y, and the second one feels like Tim Burton presents
Yeah.
Batman. You're right.
Tim Burton
Yeah.
presents his kinks and a bat suit.
Um guest what would have really made it was Uma Thurman as Catwoman. Um and have a guest producer, guest director even. Um Oh, fuck, my brain's going nuts. The guy that directed like Reservoir Dogs and Kill Bill, and my brain's going out of my head.
Tarantino.
Tarantino, there
I
you
would
go.
never want to see Tarantino do a Batman movie.
It would be. I don't know what it would be. It'd
There
be Uma
was
Thurman like shoot like barefoot like most of the movie.
I mean Uma Thurman did eventually end up being Poison Ivy in Batman and Robin.
But was she barefoot? She was in heels.
She was
Also
in
good.
heels. I mean, I, I, are we complaining about the Poison Ivy heels?
No,
That's right.
that's that's right. She was. It did involve drugs in that movie, though.
More chemicals,
More
more different colored liquid in beakers. Got
right?
dumped onto her.
Literally, I actually think multiple villains in that literally fall into different colored chemical.
Yeah,
Wait, how many villains in that? Okay, so Two Face,
yeah.
Ivy
But Poison Ivy gets chemicals dumped onto her
on her, like
as
literally.
she like falls
She's
into the
literally a
hole.
scientist
Yeah.
too. Was she
Uh,
pushed or something like that? I can't quite remember that movie.
Mr. Freeze is also a scientist, and he falls into a vat of like liquid nitrogen. And Bane is
He
kind
uses
of
venom.
kind of just Rotundo, who has like chemicals injected into him so he can become super strong.
Well, the chemicals also make him Rotundo.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
He didn't
I
break the bat in that movie.
I like in that movie John Glover as Poison Ivy's boss, the one who actually like killed her and like dumped all the chemicals on her. He asks her like out on a date, and she's like, "Oh God, no, not you! Like, I wouldn't go out with you if you were the last man alive or something like that."
Mhm.
And he's John Glover, who you may know from Gremlins 2, the new batch, and also he played Lionel Luthor in Smallville. John Glover,
Right, 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 right.
yeah, John Glover. He, after she like very harshly rejects him, he's like says something akin to, "Well, that's not the answer that I was expecting. That's very unfortunate. I'm afraid you'll have to die." Ah! And just like dumps all these chemicals on her.
I'm afraid you'll have to die.
Oh
Little
God.
did, little did he know that
Yeah.
she would become half plant.
Yeah. Half plant and not care about humanity anymore, even though she's still part human. Just the plants.
Because she cares about the earth and the plants, not so much people.
Right. So
She's
the
an
episode.
environmentalist.
So the episode that we landed on was episode 16,
16.
Deadly Nightshade, which originally aired on March 30th, 1991. Now, I used to watch this show when it was airing. I
You know what's
remember it being
funny?
on TV.
I never didn't even know its existence
I
until
had one episode, and listeners maybe help me out because I'm not sure which episode it was. I remember I had this one episode taped that I would just keep watching over and over again. And all I remember about it is the Flash like having a cold. Because I remember this one scene where he was sitting, he didn't have his costume on. Barry was like sitting in a chair and he sneezed and the chair blew back in super speed. So listeners, let me know which episode of The Flash that was, because that was I used to watch that one over and over again when I was like 6.
oh, you had one taped.
Yeah, I had one taped, yeah.
Amazing.
So the episode opens. I'm gonna kind of like gloss
Yeah,
over.
we can, because here's the thing, folks. This was an hour block of TV.
Yeah,
Here's it doesn't really feel like a chore. Like it was paced fine.
yeah,
I liked it. You have to know what you're getting into. You're not going into like a Marvel movie where they're like yucks a minute. Like, not the just Marvel movie, but this new age of like humor with superhero movies where it's like punctuated by like sassy like jokes,
right.
right? For the most part, the humor is in how dated it is. It reminds me of if you were to go back and watch Xena or Hercules. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a cheesiness to it, even though the plot is serious.
It's the same with Stargate SG-1 too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It was
Where it's
just
like funny, but
it was just genre TV of the 90s in particular. That was a thing. There was always like a little bit of like corniness to the humor, and we loved it for that.
yeah, exactly. And I got that from this in a good way. I'll just say.
So the episode opens in a hideout with a bunch of dastardly ne'er do wells called, I think they're called the People's Libertarian Front or something.
Libertarian or
It's not
libertarian front.
it's not libertarian.
Oh, it's
It's
not
close.
libertarian.
It's
Yeah,
close because I
because
it
that's an
made me
actual word.
it made me just think of libertarian every time
Yeah,
he said it, but I'm pretty sure it's libertarian. And so they're
right.
hanging out in their hideout, and they've kidnapped a rich young woman. Now, do you recognize this young lady?
Uh, yeah. One second here.
So the young woman who is kidnapped by the Libertarian Front, is a young Jerry Ryan, who several years
That
later
suit.
would go on to play Seven of Nine in Star Trek Voyager,
Yeah, I was
and then
trying to remember.
decades later in Star Trek Picard.
Hmm.
So there are quite a few like holy shit cameos in this episode.
And that's the very first one, like just right away opening up.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, 7 of 9.
And so we get this. I've actually been watching through Voyager lately. I've been binging it. I decided to subscribe to Paramount Plus because
That's right.
Star
Yeah,
Trek
you
is no
switched
longer.
some.
Yeah, Star Trek is no longer on Crave anymore in Canada. They finally that licensing agreement that they signed that they did back in like 2017 with Discovery finally came to an end. So now it's
Mhm.
all on Paramount Plus. So I got rid of Netflix and Crave, and decided to sub to Paramount Plus. It's only like $10 a month, and they've got some decent movies on there, and they've got all of the Star Trek. So I'm
Oh,
like
the
this.
Star Trek.
I'm like this is worth it to me. So I'm just gonna like binge like every Star Trek series, and I decided to start with Voyager,
Oh, nice.
and I'm up
I should
to.
rewatch Voyager.
I think I'm at the end of season 5 now. Uh,
Nice.
yeah. Anyway, so a masked man in black with a hat shows up in a like with glowing red eyes shows up in a sick like black
He kind of almost
car,
looks like,
the
yeah, sick,
Shadow.
like black, the Shadow, or like noir Spider-Man.
Yeah, or actually, there's an old pulp character called the Spider that
There we go.
actually
Yeah.
predates Spider-Man. But he has a look like this too. Like he wears like a black
As soon
mask.
as you
Like
mentioned that, yeah, the goggles, yeah.
yeah. Um,
But right, because they're on the air. No, sorry, he's calling the sheriff. Right, he's calling the police department. The leader of this like libertarian group
yeah.
is making demands with the chief of police,
Right.
and this is happening like during like the phone call.
And these guys look very much like even like the actors, like even just the actors themselves, they look very much like nameless henchmen in like night on like 90s TV show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So the we find out that this that the spider or the shadow here is actually Deadly Nightshade. So he shows up and shoots everyone dead, except for 7 of 9, of course.
Yeah, shoots them dead and then just pieces out.
And then just
Very
pieces them.
shortly after, the Flash shows up, presumably because he's at the station.
Yeah.
He was able to slip out and find out where they were. There's a lot of hand waving that goes on in the plot of this episode, but it's nothing where I'm like, oh, idiots, right? Like there's hand wavy stuff, and it's just to move the plot along. So he gets there somehow.
Yeah, there's
And
a lot that happens in this episode that happens just because the plot needs it to.
yeah, um,
Like later on, the original Nightshade just suddenly just figuring out, seemingly out of nowhere, figuring out that Barry Allen is the Flash.
I
And
he's
it's
like,
like
"Oh,
you
I
could
figured it was you because
it's like
he reveals himself.
yeah. And it's like okay, like we just threw this like little bit of dialogue in here to explain why they're going to be working together throughout the rest of the episode because they're actually already like friends.
And I had figured, not having watched any other episodes, that they were all, yeah, they were already friends and acquainted to eat with each other, and
Yeah.
like he kind of had a suspicion.
Yeah. Like I said, that the reveal like happens very quickly, just and it feels like it's just so like we can just to enable the plot to have them work together throughout the rest of the
Yeah,
episode.
exactly.
So back at the station, Barry, we're introduced to Tasha Yar. We're introduced to a psychiatrist who's played by Tasha Yar from Star Trek: The Next Generation,
Hmm.
and we're introduced to this to Barry's friend, the original Nightshade, who I don't know what his name is, but he played the judge in Liar Liar.
He does have a judge
Yeah,
in this, and in this, the Nightshade, he's like retired, and he's like a
he's a
doctor.
he's a doctor. Yeah, he's like the chief of staff or something like that at the Central City Hospital.
Mhm.
Which, weirdly enough, Barry spends a lot of time at this hospital for some reason, even though
Yeah,
you'd think he would be spending more time at the police station since that's where he works.
he's hanging out,
Yeah. And so Tasha Yar goes on TV there's this like nighttime like talk show that's hosted by the guy who played Detective John Munch in Homicide: Life on the Street and in Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
Huh.
Like I said, I recognized a lot of people. We're not even done
Yeah.
with the actors that I recognize. Mr. Futterman from the Gremlins movies has a role in the
Oh,
show.
that guy's in everything,
But
right?
that's what I associate with him with is
Mhm.
Mr. Futterman
Right.
from Gremlins, particularly Gremlins 2. the superior Gremlins film.
Vastly superior Gremlins film.
Also has John Glover in it too, whom I
Yeah.
was talking about earlier.
But yeah, she's on TV like shit talking like
The
the
Flash and like talk because like the people think that all these criminals from the like libertarian front or whatever were killed by the Flash, and she's on there being like, I think the Flash has been fighting crime for so long that he has
he
lost all
snapped.
sense of right and wrong.
And there's some people like in the force and stuff included that are like, this isn't like what he does though.
Yeah, not our Flash.
And she's really trying to like push the narrative that like the Flash just went and murdered all of these people.
Right.
And a guy calls in who's like calls the police and who's like, excuse me, you're taking
Um,
credit for
Excuse me.
actually it was me, the deadly Nightshade.
Yeah,
Not
and he,
not Nightshade, deadly Nightshade. Because as we find out, Nightshade was like a vigilante from the 50s
yeah,
who was the doctor guy. And he used like Lugers, but like with tranquilizer darts.
with tranquilizer
He was
darts.
non-lethal. Yeah.
There's a scene later on in the episode where eventually like there's like this bar that's being run by this like retired criminal. Like he's taken up a
I can't
new
remember
wing,
his names. His name's like Teddy Two Walls or
something like that. And Deadly Nightshade shows up and like shoots him dead. And Mr. Futterman from Gremlins is like. We go back to the bar later after the guy is dead, and Mr. Futterman is like talking to a bunch of people about how like they're scared about how Nightshade has become like a maniac, and like they're all like scared and everything. And then the Flash shows up, and in a weird like display of power, he's like, I want answers. And they're all just like, dude, we have bigger problems to worry about than you.
where is she?
There's this motherfucker out here who's like killing our friends. And he's like, Flash is like, but I said I want answers now.
I said answers, and it kind of like goes back to that that like kind of like detective kind of like going into like a seedy bar and like slamming the desk and being like, all right, I want answers kind of thing, but it handles that trope differently.
Yeah. And then the real Nightshade comes in, and they all like freak out. And I really like this scene.
Oh, I actually really like him as Nightshade.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh God," and he's like, "No, that's that other Nightshade was an imposter. I'm the original. Look, we're all too old to be enemies now." And so,
Because a
Miss,
lot of these people have like gone straight.
yeah,
Like they're not criminals anymore. They did their time.
and like Mr. Futterman is just like, "So Nightshade, what are you drinking these days?" And they just like sit down at the bar and have a drink
And
together.
he's like, "Do you use a straw or?"
Yeah. I love that scene. I love the idea that this guy, that Nightshade was like, like 30, 40 years earlier was like busting all these people, and now they've gone straight and they're all just like, let's just, kick back and have a drink, like we're basically like old friends at this point.
And I like that because it means that, but basically the TLDR to the episode is we find out in the 50s, Deadly Nightshade, who's been is this like rich guy who's using all of his like funds and everything to go towards like orphanages, to go towards the hospital, the psychiatrical wing, which we see him come in. He's like a rich guy because his father
Was a crime boss.
was a crime boss, and it was Nightshade that dismantled all of that and helped like take it all down and routed out corruption in like the city and restored some balance.
And so Deadly Nightshade now, because he's like all ashamed of the fact that his father was this crime boss,
Mm-hmm.
he's using his fortune now to like kill criminals, basically become the Punisher.
Yeah, that's a good point. And
Yeah.
and including the ones because like Johnny Two Walls or Vinny the Knife or whoever it is that owns the bar, he just
No
guns him
nose
down and
McGinty.
kills him. He just guns him down and kills him. But before he does that, the guy's like, "Hey, I did my 20 years. Like I'm clean. I'm good. And he says, "Oh, the first time he's introduced, sorry, Deadly Nightshade. I laughed at this before he like pulls out his like machine guns that he uses. They're like, "Who the hell are you?" And he's like, "I'm vengeance."
Doing it
Right?
before
Is
Robert
that what he
Pattinson was
says?
doing it.
He says that, right?
Oh, I can't remember. I watched this
It's
like a
something
week
like that,
ago.
or I'm like revenge, or I'm vengeance, or something like that. He says something like that.
There's also this, and it was hard. Like I thought it was kind of forced, but it was also like kind of harmless in like a like network TV kind of way. There's this like weird little like semi-adversarial, semi-playful like will they or won't they between Barry and Tasha Yar throughout the episode, and they even go on a date
Yeah,
together.
because at the very right, it happens three times. The first time he's like, "Hey, what are you doing for dinner?" And she's like, I'm too busy," and go like just walks away. And he turns to his like buddy, right, like Nightshade, and he's like, had to try." The second time, she agrees to like go out, but she's like just wants to talk about like
The
it's
Flash.
like the Flash and Nightshade, and if Deadly Nightshade is like different, like what's his MO for imitating this old like hero and stuff like that. And that's when they get shot up. They're at like a restaurant
Right.
eating, and Nightshade comes around and like shoots like an old gangster or something like that, like a ponytail dude.
Yeah. When the Flash shows up to as Nightshade is fleeing the scene, Nightshade does something that I've never seen anyone do uh to stop the Flash dead in his tracks, and I kind of love it. He throws a bunch of spikes on the ground. And so when the Flash like runs over them, it like his feet get poked. So he has to stop.
So this was clever. This was Deadly Nightshade. As he's like
Yeah,
chasing
yeah.
after him, he drops like a whole bunch of spiky caltrops
Yeah.
because the Flash just runs everywhere. Nothing's like he's not going to go in a car, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he gets like pricks on his feet and can't keep chasing him.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like pretty clever. It ended up being his downfall because they hand wave this.
Yeah.
Siege said earlier that there's a lot of hand waving here. Yada yada yada. Somebody gets some papers, and I think it's actually OG Nightshade. He gets some papers, and they find out that they were like German like made or whatever, and they're like, oh, like what company did this? Blah blah blah. Who's it associated with?
And it
And
turns out that crime boss millionaire's like son, who turns out to actually be Deadly Nightshade, had just spent like time in Germany recently, and
uh and then they're like, what could it like be him? And they're like, well, maybe he feels like really guilty, and that's manifested
there's
in
some big leaps when
there's
they
some big leaps, but they want to like double they assume they make the conclusion it's him, but they can't like confirm him. They can't go like arrest him,
right.
which is weird because later in the movie, somebody gives like a hot tip to the head of police. And just based on this hot tip, they go and arrest Dr. McNightshade. And they're like, hey, we have reason to believe that you're the Nightshade. And they arrest him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, since when can you you can't just go arrest somebody because somebody's like, hey, I know who Nightshade is. It's
Hey,
this
that
guy.
person's bad.
Go get him.
Arrest him.
Here and here's the funny in the proof, the evidence of the dossier that's delivered to him, there's just a big black and white portrait picture of
Right.
like the like current day Nightshade, who's just like, what would you say? He's like an African American guy and is like, what is he, 60-ish?
Yeah, yeah. He's like a just an old black dude.
Yeah, it's not he's still got some spring in his step because he I like it because beginning of movie, Flash tries to convince him to double team, like team up with him. And he's like, I'm too old for this shit. Right? Halfway through the movie, he's like, hey, don't help me, Nightshade. I'm gonna be the one to deal with it. And he's like, hell no, I'm helping you now. And then the last third of the movie is when he's arrested because oh right, Deadly Nightshade like interrupts like an interview. Remember when he shoots the holes through the wall and like kicks it down?
Yeah.
Right, like on live TV. And he
Yeah,
shoots the Flash in the leg.
I think he does that to After the original Nightshade gets arrested, he does that because he's like he doesn't want like him getting the credit for like all the killing he's been doing or something. But then like the show like gets like really like hilariously bananas, and he decides to in order to fight the Flash, he's going to make a mech suit.
Again, like the budget, like the we see it in
He
this
makes an
episode a lot.
exoskeleton. Doesn't even bother like trying to hide his identity at that point. He's not wearing the Deadly Nightshade
Oh,
costume
when he
anymore.
puts it on later for the
Yeah,
final confrontation.
he's just wearing this like exoskeleton.
So, okay, let's get to the exoskeleton. He's kidnapped. He's busted out of jail. OG Nightshade, right? And OG Nightshade is like tied up, like on a, I don't know, like a chair, like something. And he's like, why? If you and the Flash had just joined me, the three of us could like destroy the corruption in this world. 'Cause he's a little bit, he's psychotic, right? Like he's just
He's
killing
not well.
people.
Yeah.
And indeed, OG Nightshade, who is a doctor, so he can save us, he's like, "You're not well," and he's like, "No, seriously, like, dude, like, you need to stop. You're just like killing people. We don't do that." And he's like, "I'm not killing people. I'm killing scum," or something like that. I'm killing
You're garbage.
you're garbage.
Don't talk like one of them because you're not one of them.
No.
Even if you want to be. I just watched that again last night.
They'll cast you out like a leper.
I my TV died not too long ago, and I had to get a new TV recently, and it's a grossly inferior to the TV that I had before. But
Inferior.
I wanted to test how like the Dolby Vision and HDR looked, and like how 4K Blu-rays looked on it. Not great. But I decided to watch The Dark Knight as my like that's kind of my 4K Blu-ray that I use as like my like what's the term? My like spotlight piece.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so yeah, I watched The Dark
Yeah.
Knight again last night for I think I've watched it like 4 or 5 times this year alone already. I watched that movie a lot.
We need to move on to covering that on the Patreon. We do commentaries sometimes.
Sometimes we haven't done one for quite some time now, actually.
It's due. It's due. We have commentaries for like RoboCop.
No,
The
we
Crow.
haven't done RoboCop yet. RoboCop was
No,
the
sorry,
last thing.
Highlander.
Yeah, RoboCop was the last thing
It's-
that
it's
was
coming.
voted on.
Yeah, it's coming. The fucking, oh man, what have we? All the Matrix movies.
Yeah,
Uh,
the one with Jet Li.
the one with Jet Li. That one's probably the funnest because it's like you're not missing anything with us talking over it, right? Like,
And it's a lot of it is us talking about just how fucking early 2000s that movie is.
yeah, like Stained or Creed, like playing in the background.
Papa Roach and
Papa
Drowning
Roach and
Pool.
There, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Fucking
it's a fun movie though.
Jet Li fighting Jet Li.
Yeah,
There's no better fight than that, man.
Carla
Um,
Gugino being Carla Gugino.
We have existential talks about what Jamaican Christopher in a parallel universe would look look like. How powerful our clones would be.
Right. Oh, now I want to do a commentary track for Cool Runnings.
Yeah,
You know, we
that'd be
should
fun.
You know what we should do sometime is watch the movies that we do commentary for. We should live stream them over on the Lasercomb Discord as we're recording commentary. So if people want to join in and listen to us in real time, they can.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't think of that until just now.
You can get away with that. I
I think we can.
think we will.
Yeah.
Just try to stop us, Copper.
All right.
So yeah, what happens in this big finale? Because Nightshade's tied up, old Nightshade is tied up, And now he's got the exoskeleton suit, and he explains to Nightshade, uh, a deadly Nightshade, he explains to him, "Oh, it's an exoskeleton, and it's going to increase my reflexes so that I can keep up with and beat the Flash." And I'm like, but it's still reliant on your your response time.
Right.
Like even if it moves your limbs without breaking them like super quickly, the Flash perceives time differently.
Yeah.
Even like has a higher metabolism. He heals in like minutes, right? Because he
Oh
gets
yeah, and
shot
even
sometime in the movie.
he needs, yeah, and he needs to eat all the time too. Even
Oh,
in this
one thing
show,
I like is
they're
that Nightshade, he's like he pulls out a sandwich and he's like, "I know you," because when he's like healing or like whatever, he like
yeah, and
eats a
then
sandwich because his metabolism is
and
faster. He
later on
actually needs to eat a ton.
when he's trying to heal, that they call back to the sandwich thing, and
I
because
like that.
he says to Nightshade, he's like,
You
I don't
wouldn't happen
suppose
to
you
have a sandwich in
I
that
don't suppose
bag.
you have any more of those sandwiches, do you?
I actually laughed at that callback.
uh,
Um,
anyway, we
they end up
I
fighting.
I'm going to be summoned away fairly soon, so we should start wrapping up.
Yeah. But so they end up fighting. The Flash ends up winning because you can't dodge what you can't see. And Nightshade like gets free of his bonds, finds his gun, and tranquilizes like deadly armored Night. There's a part when he puts it on, right? And he's like, "I'm faster, stronger." And I shit you not, there's sound effects, and he goes, "Vroom, vroom, vroom,"
Yeah, I know
and
it
he
makes like
walks like RoboCop.
it makes
And
like
I'm like,
RoboCop sound effects.
bravo,
And this was
bravo.
1990, so like RoboCop was still like very much in the pop culture consciousness at this point.
So yeah, he was actually beating the Flash with this, which I thought was kind of cool.
I just find it funny that he when he's wearing the exoskeleton that he doesn't even bother with the Deadly Nightshade costume. So
No,
it's like
he's not covering his face.
he's not covering his face. He's not wearing like a
He's
hat
gone full
or like
mad.
the cape. He basically just went from being Deadly Nightshade to Bionic Man.
He went to from Agent Spider, no, what the Spider to the Spider with guns to Bionic Man,
Yeah.
the $1 million exoskeleton.
It, it took an entire Saturday afternoon to build.
So he ends up tranquilizing himself. The exoskeleton is still moving, so the Flash like short circuits it, and he's like stuck in like a phone booth awkwardly. It's kind of funny, and they're like, "Shit, they're gonna find
Doing
your
the
like secret."
robot.
Literally, he's actually like stuck doing this, even though he's unconscious. So
Yeah.
they stop him, and the police are coming. And they're like, "Shit, they're gonna find like your secret like lair, like this antique like building that he's in." The funniest shit ever. He starts picking up the bricks and putting back together the wall, but they're in big like puzzle pieces. And I'm like, ah, yes, everyone knows the Flash, famously fast Mason. And he just rebuilds the wall, and that was when I was like, okay, I get it. I This show's great.
It's in that very like the Lego video games kind of way, where they're like
Like
super
it's
speed, like building up bricks.
I couldn't handle that. And it goes together like back into the wall perfectly.
Yeah,
Like there's no like little bits or like pieces. And I'm like, okay, okay. And the to summary the ending, Deadly Nightshade is sorry, Nightshade. Not only is he unmasked because they know who he is now, right? But he's cleared of all Deadly Nightshade's
yeah,
wrongdoings. So he's kind of like famous now. And he talks about how he's got like a book deal and he's going to be on like interviews.
yeah. The Wikipedia page says that from here on he becomes a celebrity because as
I
soon as his secret identity is outed, he just becomes a celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's an interesting place because now like Nightshade's like a celebrity and he knows who like the Flash actually is. And it's I don't know, it kind of sets up like the last like chunk of like episodes, I presume. Oh, and it ends with those two going on a date.
yeah.
Psychology like journalist and
Tasha Yar.
yeah, and and Flashman. Flashman.
Tasha Yar and Flashdance. Oh, all right. Well, that was 1990s The
It
Flash.
sure was.
Cal, you just caught a random episode. Would you be tuning in next week
I
if this
would.
you would?
Yeah. Yeah. 3 or 4 year old me, probably not, because that's how old I was at the time this came out. But
When I was
30
like
something year old me, yes.
when I was like 5 and 6, I really liked this show, as I mentioned earlier.
I
And
barely remember anything from before I was 10. But I would tune in next week.
uh,
How about
so
yourself?
so would I. I want to know what episode that I had taped when I was like five
When he
years
like
old.
sneezes himself backwards?
Yeah, in super speed. Listeners, let me know which episode that was. Daniel, I'm sure you know. You pitched
Right?
the show, so let me
Right.
know which episode it was.
There
Anyway,
you
that
have
was
it. Good show.
that was episode 71 of the Lasercomb podcast. Best way to support the show is to go to patreon.com/lasercomb, LAZORCOMB, where much like Daniel, you can pledge $5 and get the ability to pitch a show for us to review a random episode of on this very podcast. You also get a
Yeah.
Patreon exclusive podcast, the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show, commentary tracks, and a bunch of other stuff. Might start doing like virtual like gaming like Discord hangouts in the near future. It's something an
That'd be
idea
fun, yeah.
we're kind of kicking around.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So if you want to get in on that, patreon.com/lasercomb. Follow me on Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky now, baby.
You're on blue sky, baby.
Just look for. I notice you don't follow me on there yet, though.
I've opened it like 3 times.
It's unfortunately there's not it's not the most active social media platform because there's only like 1 million users and it's all like it's invite only at the moment. Which
Right.
Christina, if you're listening to this, I sent you an invite. So
Ooh.
uh jump on Blue Sky. But yeah, anyway, I'm Lasercomb on Blue Sky. Cal, where can
I just
people
found you.
Oh, and you can follow me on Instagram at Christopher Siege. You can also add me on Steam. Just look for Christopher Siege. You can add me on Xbox Live under Lasercomb. Those are,
Yeah.
or you can join the Lasercomb Discord. That's probably the best way to interact with us.
Yeah, definitely.
And as always, there's a link to join the Discord in the description of this very episode.
Descrizione.
Cal, where can people find you?
Much like how you're either Christopher Siege or Lasercomb, I'm NeoCal in most places. So on Blue Sky, just NeoKal. I've got a mighty 6 followers, and I'm following 3 people.
I think I have
3
5
accounts.
followers. Although Whitney Seibold of Bibbs and Whitney from the
I
Critically
was just
Acclaimed
going to
Network.
ask, yeah.
Yeah, he follows me on Blue Sky.
Rad.
Which I'm like, sweet. Yeah, I like Bibbs and
Sweet.
Whitney. We will be back not next week. This podcast, because of scheduling things and because we have other stuff to do and because Too Much Energon is definitely our main show. This show's probably only going to be getting a new episode, 1 or 2 new episodes a month going forward, I would assume. Because that's kind of where we've been at for the past several months now.
And sometimes we do more.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes we're like, what about like this day? And it just lines up.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get 2 in a week.
Yeah, that does happen, yeah. So, if not, at the time of recording, it's September 22nd. So if not in the month of September, there will definitely be episode 72 in October.
We've done 71
71
episodes of just watching random
of just this show, this podcast alone.
Right?
Not to mention the like literal 100 plus episodes of Too Much Energon.
100 plus episodes of TME.
And
the finished
like,
run of alphanumeric.
Yeah. We've done a lot. And we've done, I think we're up to 19 or 20 of the Super Lasercomb Patreon Super Show.
Oh, even with just
yeah,
that.
Yeah, even with just that. Yeah, so we're gonna be back at some point soon with episode 72 of the Lasercomb podcast. And well, we got a couple new patrons, so I'm gonna bump them to the front of the line. Get their so they get them money's worth. And we're gonna start with our new patron, Samuel. Hi, Samuel. And the show that he wants us to watch is a show that I know you have brought up before, Cal, Tripping the Rift.
This, oh man, if you were looking for, look no further than the Rule 34 of late night teletoon. This
Yeah.
is this I couldn't tell you if it was good or not, but it certainly was a 3D animated show, folks. Did they have teletoon in the US?
No.
No, teletoon is like our cartoon was like our cartoony.
It was on the Sci-Fi Network in the U.S.
Oh, I could see
Uh,
that. Things like the Lex
yeah.
were on sci-fi. Yeah, yeah.
So, Tripping the Rift has 39 episodes spread across 3 seasons. So, I'm gonna hit screen share and hope my computer doesn't explode.
You're
Like
still
it.
hoping.
Here's to hoping. Share screen.
Oh,
Um, Here we go. It's working.
holy schmoly.
Yeah, I think the screen sharing making my computer exploding thing
That was
might have
just
just
like one certain.
I think it might have been my old video card, honestly.
Oh, right. Well,
Because I haven't really had any since I replaced my video card, I haven't had any problems that I was running into before.
maybe, or maybe it was a certain run of Zoom.
Or yeah.
Yeah.
But I've noticed even like video editing and video rendering is a hell of a lot faster
Oh, it
since I
must be.
upgraded my video card. So, anyway, one random number is between 1 and 39, and here we
Oh yeah.
go.
Where it stops.
37 in a row. That is
37.
season 3, episode 11, Extreme Takeover.
Extreme takeover. Tripping the rift.
All right, well, there you have it. We'll be back next time with that. And until then, I've been The Siege, one of your hosts.
And I'm NeoCal, your other host.
Thanks for listening. We will speed force you next week.
Or I'll just shoot you with like a tranquilizer dart.
Or
I
that
ain't got
too.
nothing fancy.
Bye bye.